Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is the player ratings. Everton 1, Fulham 3 at Goodison Park on Saturday afternoon. I've had a couple of days to sort of let this one sink in. If you watch the instant match reaction, as I'm sure you could tell, it was quite an emotional instant match reaction, probably the most emotional I've been on a video for a long time, certainly a couple of months, which is surprising given those types of results and those type of performances have been something we come to expect from Everton. But I thought I was numb to it. I thought I'd gotten into a stage of acceptance. I thought I'd gotten to the point where Everton couldn't get to me anymore. They couldn't ruin me weekend. They couldn't ruin me day. You know, they couldn't put performances in like that would make me highly emotional. I thought that, you know, it was the days of screaming and shouting and feeling that frustrated were long gone, but evidently not. That performance on Saturday afternoon did, in fact, bring that out of me, and I'm sure it brought it out of a lot of you watching as well. It was an absolutely shocking performance, an absolutely shocking result, and given the circumstances and given the situation and the position that we're in, I think we would have all liked to have thought that Everton team would have gone out and given a little bit more, worked a little bit harder, fought for a little bit more, battled for a little bit more, and they just simply didn't. It was a game between two sides, one of which, I don't even think particularly Fulham wanted it. I just think Fulham are a much better football team than we are at the moment, and we didn't want it enough. I don't think Fulham particularly fought for everything or, showed a lot more grit and fight and determination than Everton did. I just think that Fulham are a better team, and Everton didn't show enough to break that down. Fulham are quite easily beatable, clearly. They'd lost 4 games on the bounce before this one. So all as it took was a bit of fight, a bit of effort, a bit of determination, and we didn't show any of that. And when you are sitting 17th in the Premier League table with 6-7 games to go, and you've still got to play Manchester City, you've still got to play Newcastle, and you've still got a number of away games to play, knowing full well how bad our away record is, you would have thought that a fixture at Goodison against a team that have lost 4 games on the bounce was one that we really targeted to go out and give absolutely everything to win, and we didn't. And that, for me, was what was the frustrating bit. I can take losing a game of football, I can take being unlucky, I can take being beaten by a better team. I can't take players turning up and clearly showing that they're not arsed and they can't be bothered running around and they can't be bothered working hard. I can't take that. Ultimately, I can't take that. But anyway, if you haven't seen the instant match reaction, it was basically that, but with a few more expletives in it. So if you want to check it out, please do so. We're going to go through the player ratings now, give every player a mark between 1 and 10, and yeah, talk about their individual performances. So Jordan Pickford, I'm going to give Jordan a 6. I thought he was okay. I don't think he was at fault for any of the goals that we conceded. Again, his distribution was alright. A couple of times I think he held the ball a little bit too long, especially when we were 2-1 down and then 3-1 down, and we really needed that bit of urgency. We really needed that bit of, I suppose, fast counter-attack, and he held on to it a little bit early. But again, that's not his fault. That's because there's absolutely nobody to aim at, and there was absolutely no option for him. But other than that, generally, I thought he had an okay game, and made a couple of routine saves, made a couple of saves you'd expect him to make, and I don't think he particularly was at fault for any of the goals that we conceded. So he's getting a 6 purely because of the manner we lost the game, but again, I don't think he was solely responsible. Ben Godfrey at left back, Ben's getting a 1. Thought he was horrendous, and not just horrendous because of his performance, but horrendous because I think from the first minute he didn't want it. Now, okay, he went off with a concussion substitution, and obviously we wish him well and hope him the best, but I watched Ben from the opening 2 or 3 minutes in the game, and there was a moment where, he was about 15 mile away from his man at right back, and his positioning was absolutely horrendous. But I also think is not only his determination, but his sort of, he wasn't putting himself about. He didn't seem particularly interested. He didn't seem like he wanted to be there from the first minute. He looked like he was thinking, God, I can't wait to get home here. When's this game going to be over? He just didn't seem to, put himself there and work hard and battle and fight. And again, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it was just because he was out of position and he didn't feel comfortable, whatever. But for me, it was a really, really poor performance by Ben. And as I said, he was one of those players I listed on the instant match reaction that I felt didn't really give a shit on Saturday afternoon, and that's not good enough, so he's getting a 1. Michael Keane, I'm going to give Michael Keane a 6.5. Listen, he was at fault for the third goal. He got completely turned inside out by Dan James. I think the ball bounced off the back of his head. He didn't know where it was, and Dan James finished it. But I thought other than that, and listen, some people will say, well, Cam, he's there to not make mistakes, and he made the mistake, so why does he deserve that score? And it's because there was 4 or 5 other players that clearly didn't care, clearly weren't bothered about running around, clearly weren't interested about, fighting and working hard and battling to win the game for Everton. And I thought Michael Keane, other than that mistake, I thought he was okay. I thought he ran round, I thought he battled, I thought defensively he was pretty good, as I said, other than that moment. I thought he was pretty good defensively for the majority of the game. So, yeah, again, I wasn't massively worried about Michael Keane. There was other players in that side that worried me an awful lot more than what Michael Keane did. And Michael Keane made, a typical Michael Keane mistake, which led to a goal. And he still wasn't the most worrying for me. So, yeah, he's getting that score. Tarkowski, I think he's going to get a 6. I've dropped the score because there was a moment in the game where he's screaming and shouting at a ball boy to give him the ball back when, literally we were 3-1 down and half the players looked like they were on the beach. But again, similar to Michael Keane, I thought he was okay. I don't think individually he was particularly at fault for anything. Thought he battled, threw a couple of challenges in, worked relatively hard. Could he have done better? Probably. But so could all of them. But yeah, I thought he was alright. I don't think individually he was particularly bad. Obviously, the whole defence was horrendous, but I don't think individually he was particularly bad. Vitaly Mykolenko is getting a 2. And, I've given Ben Godfrey a 1 there because I thought his effort and his application was absolutely shocking. I'm giving Vitaly Mykolenko a 2, not because of his effort or application. I actually think he worked hard. I actually think he battled. I actually think he tried. I just think he's a truly awful footballer. And I know that might be harsh, and I know that might be, some people might disagree with that, but I really, really do think he's just a truly, truly awful footballer. And I think he showed that on a couple of occasions on Saturday. He's just not very good. And unfortunately for Everton, we've got a team full of players who just aren't very good. And when you have a team full of players who just aren't very good, you don't win games of football. And when you don't win games of football, you ultimately find yourself in a relegation battle and potentially going down. And that's the be-all and end-all of it. That's the top and bottom of it. I just don't think he's very good. In fact, I think he would struggle to start in a championship team. And he's starting for Everton in crucial games of football that we need to win. And I know there's no other options. I'm not sitting here having a go at Dyche and saying, why don't you play him instead? But I'm just sitting here and thinking, after 600, 700 million pounds spent in the last 7-8 years, we've gotten to this point. 2 consecutive relegation battles and players in this team that are nowhere near good enough to be here. And yet, the same people making the decisions at the top still remain in charge. Anyway, that's a conversation for a different video. Alex Iwobi's getting a 1 as well, same as Ben Godfrey. I thought from the first minute he didn't apply himself. I thought he was lazy. I thought he ran away from every ball. There was a 5-minute spell in the first half and a 5-minute spell in the second half where he was running around, where he was working hard, where he was trying to make something happen, where he was trying to create something. But they were, as I said, 5-minute spell here, 5-minute spell there. For the other 80 minutes of the game, he done absolutely nothing. His passing was woeful. I thought his effort was woeful. He shit out of a couple of challenges. He didn't run around. He didn't chase players down. I thought, again, it looked like the type of performance which screamed, I don't really want to be here. Get me off this pitch. So he's getting a 1. James Garner. I'm actually going to give James Garner a 7. Thought he'd done okay. Thought he worked hard. Thought he looked bright. Thought when he picked the ball up, when he had the ball at his feet, he done well with it. Again, I think in a team full of players that were willing to give everything, that were willing to apply themselves properly, that were willing to battle, that were willing to fight, I think James Garner would have looked really, really good. The fact he was surrounded by, a number of players that weren't particularly interested maybe had an effect on him. But I thought individually, thought he had a good game, thought he worked hard, thought he battled, thought he put himself about. I was quite impressed by him. If I'm honest. Especially for his first start for Everton, of course. Garner, Idrissa Gana Gueye. I'm going to give him a 5. I thought he worked hard in the first half. Thought he battled in the first half. Thought he put himself about. Second half, I think he was anonymous. Absolutely anonymous. I can't even remember him touching the ball more than 3 times in that second half. Wasn't particularly involved, didn't seem particularly interested. But again, that was probably because the game just moved away from him. Fulham just completely took control of the ball, took control of the play in that second half. And I just don't think Garner could get his foot on it. I don't think he could get any control of it. I just think he was miles away from it. And that therefore, he wasn't in the game at all in that second half. So, yeah, again, similar to Mykolenko, really. Obviously, Garner's a much better footballer. Sorry, similar to James Garner, really. Obviously, he's a much better footballer than Mykolenko, but I think he applied himself, but just couldn't really get his foot in the game. Dwight McNeil, I'm going to give him a 6 as well. Again, I thought he worked hard, and listen, Dwight McNeil may well fall into that category with Vitaly Mykolenko and Neal Maupay of players that just aren't good enough to play for Everton. Whether they work hard, whether they battle, whether they don't, they're just ultimately not good enough to play for Everton. But give McNeil his due. He got himself in a good area. He scored a decent goal. What's that? 4 for the season now, is it? 3 for the season? He 4 for the season it is, isn't he? He scored against Southampton, scored against Palace, scored against Brentford, and he scored yesterday. So 4 for the season. Saturday. 6 if you include the friendly, so I'm still on track for me 10 goals a season. Thought he worked hard, put himself about in the first half. Second half, again, quiet, nowhere near as involved. Good goal, took it well, good movements inside, and again, showed that bit of confidence to have a goal from outside the box, and it was a really well-taken finish. But yeah, again, not what we need to win us games of football. It's not enough. It's not enough to give you that spark, that bit of magic to get you through in a game like this. And we haven't got anybody that's enough. But Dwight McNeil isn't enough. But give him his due, he got a goal. And yeah, he worked hard. Demarai Gray, 1, awful. Absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Don't see what he brings, don't see what he offers. Slows the game down by trying to do 300 million step overs when he gets the ball. Absolutely offers nothing in front of goal, doesn't create anything, can't particularly shoot well. Yeah, I just think he was woeful. And add all of that onto the fact that I don't think his application was very good. I think he was lazy, he was jogging round, he wasn't really wanting to chase, couldn't really be bothered tracking down. Yeah, again, into that category of Vitaly Mykolenko, Neal Maupay, players that aren't good enough for Everton, but even worse, players that don't want to apply themselves properly. Thought he was shocking, Demarai, and if I talk any more about him, then people will probably start saying I've got an agenda, so we'll move on. Neal Maupay, 1, and again, similar to Mykolenko, not for the lack of real effort, not for the lack of any real fight, just not a very good footballer. I think he wasn't helped by the tactics of Sean Dyche, which were to lump the ball up to him, which were never going to work because of his height and because of his lack of physical presence. But if our survival hopes are pinned on Neal Maupay, then I think we should start looking at train travel to various different championship grounds next season because, yeah, nowhere near good enough. Onto the bench then, Pats, Nathan Patterson, 3. Thought he'd come on and didn't particularly look much better than what Ben Godfrey did at right back, which is a task because Ben Godfrey looked absolutely horrendous. Give him his due, he'd come on into a game that was difficult. Everton weren't controlling. Was always going to be difficult for him to, settle in and make an impact. Obviously, it's, he's only just coming back from an injury as well, so I'll give him his due, but he didn't really have an impact. Tom Davies, same. Can't even remember what I've given Nathan Patterson. 3 for Davis. Come on, no impact whatsoever, which isn't surprising. When you bring Tom Davis on a 3-1 down and you expect him to have an impact for us to go on and get something out of that game, then serious questions have to be asked of the manager. And then Ellis Sims, yeah, 3 again. Not his fault, but didn't have any impact on the game or the outcome of the game whatsoever. So, there you go. They're the player ratings. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't checked out the Intermatch reaction, please do so. Live game review will be up at some point this week, of course. So don't forget to look out for that one. If you have enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.